in the advisory world, what's really important is when a client passes, you want to really make sure you've developed those relationships with the family, so the accounts don't go anywhere. So bringing that full circle is where event planning in the advisory space has been for so long, and adding strategic event planning, we are working towards building those relationships, which will help the advisor and their firm grow.
Hello and welcome to another Top Advisor Marketing Podcast. I am your host, Matt Halloran. Now, our guests today, who are Elyse and Angela, have been on the show before in a different way. They were doing something a little bit different, and they have made a really big pivot, a pivot that, one, I think is absolutely fantastic, and I am all about supporting this direction that they're going, because so many conferences right now are consistently talking about organic growth, and one of the greatest ways to have true organic growth is executing an amazing event. So today, we are going to be talking with the two founders of Event Advisors. Yeah, I'm so excited about this. This is going to be so awesome, and I'm so happy with what you guys have built, and I'm so happy to bring this to everybody, because our audience really, really needs to know how to run a successful event. Not that we're going to give them all of the secret sauce on the show today, but I definitely want to make sure that we lay a good foundation so that when people do hire you, they understand what they can expect. So Elyse and Angela, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
All right, guys, where do we begin? Well, actually, I'm going to tell you where we're going to begin, damn it. We're going to begin by saying what happened, right? So you guys ran Strategic Custom Marketing. That was what it was called, right? Strategic Custom Marketing?
Custom Strategic Marketing.
Oh, damn it. I was so close. Oh, I even had that right on a piece of paper, but I wasn't looking at it. Okay, so Custom Strategic Marketing, and then you guys had an epiphany. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so the epiphany was this. Custom Strategic Marketing, call it what it is, right? We found that working within the financial advisory ecosystem, that people needed this strategic marketing. We were putting together what we thought were these amazing marketing plans, and we were getting great feedback on it. And it was all based on the ideal clients. And when we put those plans together, there were 4 or 5 disciplines, and one of them was events. Well, here's what we found. People are financial advisors. They're not marketers. So it was super overwhelming and difficult to get things done. And what we recognized is not only that, but nobody within the bigger national space was talking about events. Mm-hmm. Angela and I both come from the event world and understand the power that events have, and said, wait a minute, if we can talk about ideal client and creating events to help folks in the financial services ecosystem build stronger relationships with their clients through events, this is where we belong.
Yes.
Well, so let's elaborate on that a little bit. So why don't you guys tell, because again, when we had you guys on the show, we had you independently, and you guys had talked about your backgrounds, but this is like this the coalescence of everything, like everything now. And I don't like using the word synergy because it's overused, but this is actually true. Like you have a symbiotic and synergistic relationship together. So let's talk a little bit about your guys' background so our audience can understand a little bit more about why you guys really decided to focus on events.
Absolutely. I'll start, Matt. My background is several decades in the advisory space, working in an advisory office and consulting in the space of marketing implementation and event execution, really making those events come to fruition, working on the event plans, but there was really no strategy involved in it. It was just to get it done, whether the coach asked us to do an event, you saw another advisor doing the event, it was rinse and repeat. New ideas, sometimes they work, sometimes they didn't. And when Elyse and I collaborated to work on strategic marketing plans, that was a big piece of it, is the strategy in identifying the ideal client as it pertained to the marketing plan, but more specifically to the events. It all falls into place. You need to speak to your ideal client when doing your marketing plan and planning your events. So taking my background in advisor marketing and advisor events, working with wholesalers, working with the COIs, and then Elise's background in strategic marketing, it really puts the whole umbrella over events to from beginning to event, not just calling a venue to book a night and a chicken dinner and you're on your way. It is setting the goals all the way to the follow-up. And that's what's different from what most people think event planning is. It's building that event with the goal to nurture those your client relationships. And when building your client relationships, there's a few things that happen. You develop those relationships so they become sticky and they don't go anywhere. They like you so much they refer you. And then in the advisory world, what's really important is when a client passes, you want to really make sure you've developed those relationships with the family. So the accounts don't go anywhere. So bringing that full circle is where event planning in the advisory space has been for so long, and adding strategic event planning, we are working towards building those relationships, which will help the advisor and their firm grow.
So, okay, so you've got Angela, who's been in an advising office and dealing with the rigmarole there. Elyse, your experience actually has a much different origin and actually kind of a different specialty. Would you like to elaborate on that?
I would love to. So, my background is actually in sports, entertainment, and higher education event marketing. And everything that we do in those spaces is strategic. The analogy of when I was working in the arena world, when we were selling tickets to Disney on Ice and we were selling tickets to a rodeo, you knew who your ideal client was. You knew where they were getting their information. Yeah. You kind of also knew that they weren't always the same people. So you were catering your message to your ideal client. Do we call it that? Probably not. But so when I created Fresh Perspective Consulting, which was my umbrella business, this whole idea of, wait a minute, we need to actually do events so that we have the people in the room to get the message that we want to get. And as I was starting to build that business and talking to people, they were saying, God, I hate doing events. Like the ROI on events is just horrible. And I was like, wait a second, you're measuring the wrong thing. And came up with this paradigm that we call the return on the moment versus the return on the investment. When we think about the event as its own kind of rock in its own stream, and we set goals and objectives for that event, it helps with the bigger flow. And as Angela said, that wasn't happening in the financial services space. And it's our mission to make sure that it starts happening more often.
Well, so a lot of advisors, especially now that we're outside of the pandemic, really truly want to do events again, but they're still executing them like it's in the 1900s. I'm going to send out a wedding style invitation and just hope people show up. There is no plan. And I love that you guys have built an actual plan and strategy around this return on moments, because moments are really what you need to be paying attention to. And the other thing that I really love about all of this is if so many advisors, and I think I've told you guys the story, I'm going to digress for a moment. I work with an advisor here in Kalamazoo, and we started doing wine tasting events. He loved wine, he had like a huge wine collection. So we started doing wine events, and his list was super small. He refused to expand it past his A+ clients. He never wanted to ask anybody to bring a friend. And then when nobody showed up, or even if they did show up and then all they did was drink the wine and didn't provide him with 25 referrals, he thought it was a huge failure. And that's a big thing that and Angela, you had talked about that, is there is this great wealth transfer that's happening. And if you're not building relationships with your clients' kids, you're going to lose out on, at least in the next 15 years, $74 trillion, which I actually think I got that from you guys watching a presentation on that. All right. So Elyse, though, you just talked about something that I think is a wonderful visual. And I love visuals on the podcast because it allows people to have a greater understanding of the concept. You just talked about a stream and a rock in a stream. Would you mind elaborating on that, or one of you two, please?
Sure, I'll go ahead. Okay, so everybody, I know this is like the cardinal sin of podcasts, right? Everybody just like stop, close your eyes.
Unless you're driving.
Yeah, unless you're driving.
Unless you're driving, please don't. Pull over. Stop, close your eyes. Picture you're in a forest and there's a nice river running through and you can hear like the nice bubbles all going. And there's some rocks in the stream. Think about when you actually watch that water and what it does when it goes around those rocks. It kind of creates its own little eddy pool, but it also changes the flow of the bigger stream. So in that analogy, your marketing is that water, and those rocks are your marketing tactics, the things that you do. So in our case, we're focusing on the event rocks. There's a whole separate pile of podcast rocks and digital communication rocks. But when you focus on that rock as something that can affect your stream and setting goals for that, right? Like, what do we want this rock to do? Why is it here? Can we move it? Is there an earthquake that moves it? Whatever. It redirects your marketing to the places that ideally you want to go. Like, sort of like a beaver dam, right? Like that comes into play too. And it redirects the water. There's all these things that you can be doing, and to just kind of go, the rock's there. It's whatever. It's a real waste of time and energy, and fiscal and human investment. So if you can affect it, why not?
And that's a really good point too, because for the advisors out there that are listening that have done events and have those event rocks, but they haven't worked for whatever reason, so if you just move the rock a little bit, the stream goes a different direction. And just with a few tweaks, you can change the entire dynamic of your advisory firm and your relationships with your clients. Well,
and I love how you use the word eddies, and I'm going to partner that with a word you used before, which is moments. All of the rocks that are in that stream pause that stream to create this moment. And I don't think people look at their marketing at all as just these ideal return on these moments. And if you have a strategy behind those moments, then all of a sudden that stream is flowing in the way that you want it to and will get the desired outcome. And that's really what I think you guys are changing in this world. And as I have known both of you for quite a while, and seek you out at conferences to hang out because you guys are so wonderful to hang out with. When you guys were talking about this, we did research like right there, and there isn't another company. Now, there are seminar companies and those sorts of things for the educational events, but we saw this huge gap in the world of support for financial services professionals to execute really effective events. So let's talk about what are some of the things that you guys do that really have a better return on these moments for advisors.
I think the first place to start is the difference of goal setting and not. Angela talks about this all the time. Whether it was back in the 1900s, I love that phrase, way back in the 1900s, advisors would do 4 events a year because their coach would tell them that these are the 4 events you need to do. Yes, people like you, Matt. And that was fine. But again, there wasn't like, what's the purpose of this? So if we're setting purposes for this, and where we're focusing is the client relationship events, because of everything we've talked about with that AUM and the stickiness and the next gen. And let's face it, the other thing we're hearing a lot, which we totally are into, is this authenticity and the fact that advisors connect with their clients because of the people who they are, not because of the products that they provide. What's a better way than having an event to not only get to know your clients as who they are, but they get to know you as the person you are.
So I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt because Angela brought something up a little while ago, and in fact, we on your website you actually have a picture of this. But you have executed events with the advisor that you've worked with that actually is like actively attracting people's children because it is an event that they love and it's a whole bunch of fun. Can you just give somebody a free event idea? Because I know you guys have hundreds of different sorts of ideas, but Angela, I think you know which one I'm talking about. Would you mind sharing that a little bit?
I do. I would love to share this. So with this one advisor that I've worked with, he's built a community with female clients and gone as far as developing a women's council and a women's group within the firm. And years ago, we held a brunch with all the ladies and asked them what they would like to see us, what kind of events they would like to attend. And we had flip charts and we wrote all kinds of things down from Finance 101 to gardening. Well, the crux of that is they wanted community. They wanted a variety of different events. They wanted to bring their friends. They wanted to be places that were convenient. So where we are, there's a shopping area which is near the freeway, so that's always a good place. So we created over the years several wine and painting events. So we did brunches and bubbles, paint and Pinot. We did incorporated into a Galentine's event, and we really created this so they could come. There was no presentation. It was purely a fun afternoon or morning. They were encouraged to bring friends, and they did. They brought adult children, female children. They brought their friends. And I remember one of these that we were doing, I was standing in the back and everyone was bringing, we actually had a waiting list for one of these events because everyone wanted to bring their girlfriends. And I'm like, wow, this is working. This is great. And it really develops a sense of community. When we've been doing this year after year, they all start to get to know each other and they're toasting and they're looking at each other's paintings and they're hugging each other. And it's really, as I mentioned, develop that sense of community relationships with each other, with us. And then they leave with their painting, whether they want to put it in the garage or put it in their office or their home. They have that memory of that event. Then when they go to the next event, what'd you do with your painting? Did you hang it up? How was your painting? When's the next one? So it creates that memorable moment that they just don't forget.
Well, I, as a coach, one of the things that I used to do is create emotional anchors that were basically triggering things throughout the advisor's office. And how wonderful is that? Now, most of my paintings would probably end up in the garage behind some stuff. But, if let's say it was hung up in your office, every time you see that, you are going to have that memory. But you said something, and I actually haven't heard you say this before. And I don't know if this is just Elyse really rubbing off on you with the kind of events that she did. I mean, I know this didn't happen. This happened before. Yeah, it's possible. But there wasn't a presentation. And so, oh my God, you're trying to do this wonderful community building event. And then the advisor stands up and says, today, I'm going to spend 15 minutes talking to you about Roth conversions.
No.
What in God's name? How do we reprogram the advisors to understand that that's not part of the goal?
Well, you want to look at having events that serve a goal and a purpose. We call it event personality. So if you want to educate your clients and prospects about a Roth conversion, or you want to bring in a wholesaler to talk about a topic, or you want to do an economic summit, keep it in that box and have that goal and invite people who will be interested in that. So they have clear expectations. And that develops a relationship to educate, to nurture, to inform, to really develop those questions that clients may have so you can have further conversations. That's developing a relationship in one way. But having a social event, whether it's a client appreciation, a holiday party, a shred day, a volunteer day, a paint and Pinot day, I could go on forever. That purpose of those events should be strictly to develop those relationships and have a good time, because you don't have to always educate about XYZ product every time you're in front of a client. You want to develop those relationships so they trust you, because when they trust you and they like you and they have their money with you, then they are likely to add more investments with you, refer you to their friends, refer you to their children. And it's, you can't see it on the podcast, I'm doing a circle. It's a wheel, it's, you get the return on the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Don't do that presentation, because it gives them mixed messages, and it feels very salesy.
Well, and that's one of the things that I love talking to both of you guys about these sorts of events is you're giving, we talk about this a lot on the podcast. Nobody wants to be sold to anymore. Everybody wants to buy from you. And when you're creating environments that are happy places to spend time with you, the probability of them buying from you is exponentially greater. All right. So Elyse, I'm going to ask you this question first, and then Angela, I'll ask you the same one. Since we're closing up on time here. What did I miss? So what should I have asked you that I didn't?
I think when we're talking about events, one of the biggest keys we believe, and Angela touched on this, but I think we need to dig into this a little bit more, is it's not about the advisor or the wholesaler or the broker dealer. It's about your attendee, right? It's your, if you're an advisor, it's your client. If you're a broker dealer, it's your advisors. If you're insurance, it's again, your advisors. What do they want? What do they want to learn? What do they want to share? What moments are important to them? So many people just say, I'm an expert in Roth conversions, so I'm going to do a series of webinars on Roth conversions. But if your ideal client isn't interested in that, they're probably not coming, and they might not even be coming back. So this ask, it's a give and take. People will tell you. You just have to ask. Yeah. So,
all right, Angela, how would you answer that question?
So, one of the things that we didn't touch on in depth that I'd like to go into is the difference that we've kind of honed into, the process that we've honed into. We talked about goal setting. We talked about developing your events as different rocks in the marketing stream with the intent to really speak to the ideal attendee. Then you execute that event, which is where I think most people have been falling since the 1900s, calling the venue, booking their event, maybe having a gift and being on their way. And then the final piece of that circle is the follow-up. Knowing how you're going to communicate with the attendees and those that couldn't come that you invited after the event, but planning it when you're setting your goals at the beginning of the event, that's a real critical piece that we didn't touch on. And it's a piece that advisors fall short on. They just do, because everyone gets busy, and once the event's over, you've got 100 emails that you need to attend to the next day, and everyone forgets. And it has to be really strategically planned. When are you going to do the follow-up? Block time in the calendar. How are you going to follow up? What questions are you going to ask? You don't want to ask, did you have a good time? That's not going to move you further in the relationship. So you have to really develop. I know Lisa's shaking her head. She has all kinds of ideas. This is where she excels, and really how we kind of aligned. So that's the piece that brings this whole return on the moment full circle, is the follow-up. Goal setting, targeting your ideal client or attendee, the execution, which is very important, and then this follow-up.
I want to just very quickly, I just attended 2 major conferences, because you guys said that, you not only do this for independent financial advisors, but you can also do this for wholesalers and then, broker dealers for conferences. And the contrast between these 2 events was stark, right? So the first one, and I'm not going to name the conferences. If you follow me on social, you know which one they are. But so the first one was kind of a celebratory top producer event. And guys, the night number 1, it was at the Country Music Hall of Fame. There wasn't anything that wasn't just let's hang out and everybody just get to know each other better. And then the second night, they actually brought in these two singer-songwriters that were brothers who had written over 2,700 country music songs. And then they would play them and talk about it. It was kind of like a inside the actor's studio for Nashville writers. And I remember leaving that event and everybody saying that it was just such an unbelievable experience moment that they are never going to forget, because we were sitting with two Grammy award winning, country music Hall of Fame, writers, and they let us ask questions and we were all singing together. It was just an unbelievable opportunity. And then you switch the other one, which was a major industry conference event. And all of the speakers were only from that company. It was all about one specific topic. They didn't ask for any feedback. They didn't do any follow-up on anything at all. And the evening event was like, everybody just goes and gets drunk. And I was like, that's really great if you're a frat boy and that's what you want your life to be. But that's not the way that events should be today. And you guys help all, and I just wanted to make sure that our listeners knew that you help on all three of those levels. You do industry events, you do wholesaler events, and then you do advisor events. And you guys have a couple of ways for people to engage. So let's go ahead and talk about that today. So who wants to go first in talking about how our audience can go ahead and engage with you?
I'll go ahead. So we talk about how we have all this experience. And really one of the reasons that we started Event Advisors is we wanted to share that experience with the financial services ecosystem. So we've actually created an emergency kit checklist that is over 30 items that we have discovered through our years of event planning and event execution that we're like, oh, thank God I had this. It's sort of like the oh, thank God kit.
Yeah.
We have that. That's free. So all you need to do is to go to our webpage, which is event-advisors.net, which I'm sure will be in the show notes. And you'll see some boxes in there to click on to get this. It's downloadable. It's a PDF. It's got check boxes so you can keep track. And it's got Amazon links. So you don't even have to think about it. Take it, click it all, put it in your shopping cart, find a big trash bag or a lovely suitcase to put them all in, and you're good to go for your next event. So the best place to probably connect with us to get that is there. Okay. And we're on LinkedIn, both of us individually and as event advisors. And I don't know, any place else. Well, and hello at...
Yeah, go ahead.
And email hello@event-advisors.net.
All right, so there's your free giveaway. So Angela, I'm going to turn this over to you. Let's talk about what you can actually offer our audience when they do want to go ahead and hire you.
Absolutely. So we have 3 ways that we're working with advisors, broker-dealers, and wholesalers. Where we spend most of our time is in the collaborative coaching. Let's say that's middle tier. I'm, again, talking with my hands, so podcasts are a little hard for me because I'm so visual, is we've got 3 tiers. And in this middle tier is a collaborative coaching where we will work alongside you and your team to really guide you to plan the events. This is for advisors who are doing events, want to do them a little bit better, want to understand the potholes we might have stepped in, some of the tips and tricks, just bounce ideas off of, and we can guide you in planning those events. And again, this could be for a single advisor, an advisor with a team that really just wants a little guidance, a little collaborative coaching. Then the third tier is we can come in and handle your event from A to Z. We do the goal setting. I help you work identifying the attendee, help with we plan all the logistics, and then help with the follow-up. Really everything short of touching the client data unless we're approved by your broker-dealer to touch the client data.
Good call.
It's always the asterisk. Then the very first tier, and I've bounced around, is a DIY course that is in development right now. That's coming soon. And what that's going to be is for the event implementer that wants to learn how to specifically do FinServe events the strategic way, the goal setting, ideal client, and all the way down to the follow-up. But really wants to kind of do it on their own, it'll be a 3-module course. They'll have access to it and learn all the tips and tricks, get our tools, our checklists, and all of that. And that is in the works. And that will be on our website when available, event-advisors.net.
All right. So I want everybody to understand something very, very clearly. Events are actually something you should be doing. It's the way to build and deepen relationships. It's a way to maintain client assets. And even more importantly, it's a wonderful way for you to get access to your clients' children by doing events that are actually family focused. And this is absolutely huge. This isn't an if, this is a when, this isn't a should, this is a must. And you don't want to do it half-assed. You got to whole ass your event. And if you truly want to whole ass your event advisors are the people that you need to engage. Whether they're going to do everything for you, they're going to do it with you, or they're going to teach you how to do it. This is such a magnificently robust system. And if you are doing events right now, that free emergency kit, I've seen it. It's absolutely fantastic, actionable stuff. And there's so many things in there. When they actually showed it to me, I giggled and said, God, I can't tell you how many times I've needed that, because I go to a lot of events. So Elyse and Angela, thank you very much for your time today. We really appreciate you.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you so much.
So for Elyse and Angela, this is Matt Halloran, and we'll see you on the other side of the mic very soon.